Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Lo.
And today, Lo and I are going to tell you a little bit about how we felt about The Revenant. So this is the first thing that Lo and I have reviewed together in a really long time. Finally trying to get back to a little bit some how we felt about. And we began this week, we both felt like going to the movie theater, and I said, hey Lo, do you want to do a video? And she was like, yeah, what should we see? And this was a movie that came out, so we went. Lo and I had no initial investment in this. Neither of us knew really anything about this movie. I knew that Leonardo DiCaprio was in it. That was about all I knew. I think I had maybe seen one trailer for it at some point and had promptly forgotten what it was even about. And as I've said before, I love going to movies having no idea what I'm getting myself into. And so that was kind of fun and exciting for me. Having said that, this is the sort of movie that I would not usually intentionally go to. I'm not real big into these sorts of thrillers, really. This is a kind of survival thriller that transforms into a revenge thriller. And I would say that if you're a revenge thriller person, this is definitely probably your sort of movie. It's period piece set in the 1800s, and our heroes, some of them are not. But our characters are sort of pseudo-military, but are working for a company that is hunting down bears and other animals for furs and trading them and stuff. And it's a very, very simple story. It's Leonardo DiCaprio gets mauled by a bear and is trying to survive in order to hunt down a guy who murders his son. That's the story. And it's one of the most intense things, Lo, I think I have ever had the pleasure of sitting through. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, it's very intense. I feel cold. I know it's kind of a silly answer, but I really want to make it it's a good reason, because I was so invested in the movie and watching what Glass, I think was his name, was going through, that as he's like out there freezing and just like fighting to survive, I literally was like, I actually feel cold right now, because I was so into what was happening. And I think a lot of that was the like cinematography and the editing and the way that they prolonged a lot of shots that I think maybe other movies might have cut down on a little bit to keep the pace up. But I think that was definitely on purpose to kind of really make you there with him as he's just freezing his butt off and trying not to die. So it was very like in the moment and kept me in with what was happening with his struggle. So I feel cold.
So you really liked the film. Give me kind of a best thing, worst thing.
Best thing I would say is photography. It was a very pretty movie. There were constantly shots and decisions that they made with camera work that I was really just interested in. I always kind of, I mean, I don't know what time, but I feel like I can sort of notice it when it's happening. Like, I don't know what the names of anything is, but I really enjoy like just pretty shots and when they do interesting things with the camera. And I think that this movie did. There was some just banana sandwich ADR going on.
I did not pick up on that.
Oh my gosh. And I think I first picked up on it in this scene when the Native Americans are selling the pelts to the like French that are in the area. Yeah. And they were speaking in French, and I speak French, so I was like, picking up on everything that they were saying, titled, and before it was subtitled, because they were like, they had a translator between them. And that was really weird, and it was obviously ADR'd. And then there were other times where I think it might have been on purpose to sort of show him kind of being in this like dreamlike state as he's getting delirious and dehydrated. But it more was just distracting to me at that point, that I kept noticing it. It was oftentimes when he was speaking in the Pawnee language. I know that was the name of the type of, like the tribe of Native American, I think, was Pawnee. I'm not sure. You had
the Pawnee, and then you had the Sioux, and I think they were at war with each other at the same time. I think
every time that he was speaking that, I'm not sure if it was just that like his lips would be moving very little, but he would be speaking very loudly. And so it was obvious to me that when he recorded it, he was maybe whispering that line and then ADR'd it much louder. And it was just distracting on multiple occasions. It didn't ruin the movie for me, but that was definitely something that I kept noticing.
Wow, that's hilarious. Okay, so is that your worst thing? Is that really your...
Yeah.
That's
that's
hilarious. Okay, so I'm assuming that Lo, you're flipping your sign green, yes?
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I don't know that I would go out of my way to see this movie again. It was an experience, to be sure, and I'm definitely glad that I saw it, but it's not necessarily my type of movie. So I was in that. I probably won't see it again. So I'm flipping green, but it's in the middle.
You and I had, I think, exactly the same experience with this. This is one of those movies that I don't feel like I would recommend to everybody, because I don't think I enjoyed it. But I think it's a really good movie. I'm glad I went. I don't know that I was in the mood for this sort of movie when I went. I mean, that's part of the problem. I kind of feel like, as much as I like going into a movie not knowing what I'm getting myself into, there is, of course, a risk there. I think that people are likely to appreciate this movie, if not enjoy it more, knowing that they're getting into a really, really intense movie that is very slow but deliberately paced. You mentioned pacing earlier, and that and I really appreciate that we're not cutting constantly for the sake of pacing. It's not that kind of movie. It's not an action movie. It's a lot of it feels like it's in real time. There are certainly cuts in between time periods, of course, but it does. I say time periods. This takes place over a very short period of time. But you know what I mean? Like, he'll have to sleep for a long time, and then we'll see him after he wakes up. It's very smartly paced in that when we're in a moment, when we're in a scene, we're there for just a very long time, and we see every facet of it, and that really ramps up the tension and the suspense, and makes it very urgent. And this is as close to, like, second-person perspective as you could get when you're following a person in a movie, where, like, I feel like I am him while I'm looking at him, which is really impressive. I really appreciated that the camera would get really, really close to people, but not in that obnoxious, I can't tell what's going on sort of way. Like especially when there would be during action. This guy goes through every terrifying thing you could possibly think of out in the wilderness, and I have rarely seen a protagonist get ripped to shreds and have to deal with this much awfulness at one time. Talking about this is very much kind of a hero's journey movie, and dealing with a character that's trying to overcome adversity, more adversity than I've ever seen. If you want to make sure that your character really gets put through the ringer, this is your guy. It's quite a ringer. But never do I feel like we're so close and they're shaky cam and I can't tell what I'm looking at. And that's the thing I really appreciated. What I wrote on my sign, Lo, is I felt as if I too was mauled by a bear, left for dead, and had no hope of making it out of the theater alive. In as much of a way as it's possible when you're sitting in a theater and you're not an idiot and you know that you're in a theater, I kind of feared for my own life, if that makes any sense at all. This is a very visceral movie. It's a really physical movie, and when he gets hurt, you feel it. This is a really violent movie, and people that have a really weak stomach, really faint of heart, this is not the movie for you. I think most people are likely to watch this and appreciate what it's doing, and pick up on the human themes, and see these people as very real characters that come alive, despite how little we really know about them. But I think that a lot of people, that there are definitely people. I don't think my wife could get through this movie. There are definitely people that I think just because of the brutality wouldn't be able to get through it, and yet I don't think that it's gratuitous about that, because it's not about glorifying violence. It's a movie about violence, and there's the violence. I'll go through a few notes real fast. I I really like the visual storytelling. There's very little dialogue in this film, and when people are talking, it's deliberate and necessary, and that's where some of the levity comes in. Happily, it's not a completely joyless movie. It's not a laugh out loud movie, hardly ever, but its characters are human enough that there are places that you are laughing with them a little bit, and we do have a not often, but it did once or twice, and we do have a villain you love to hate, in our antagonist. There are some places where his dry wit is difficult not to laugh at, as morbid and just disturbing as it gets. I'm gonna say the very, very best thing about this movie, even beyond the cinematography, which is brilliant, beyond all the oneers, which are incredibly impressive, beyond the makeup, which I think it should be nominated for an Academy Award for. I will be really surprised if this movie is not nominated for makeup. The best thing about the whole movie is that Tom Hardy completely disappears. This is probably the best Tom Hardy performance I've ever seen. I didn't know he was this versatile. I kept forgetting it was him. Like I had read that he was the bad guy in this, and then I left the theater having to remind myself that that's who I'd watched the whole time. He completely disappears in that role. I've never seen anything that transformative. Rarely have I seen anything that. We're talking Heath Ledger is the Joker transformative. There is no Tom Hardy there. It's amazing. Interesting too that it's a movie with very little talking because and Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is incredible, incredible. But we got a character with Leo that isn't allowed to speak much because his throat gets cut open and he can't talk. And through most of the movie, we're talking about a protagonist who's half dead through most of the movie. I've never seen that. And I probably just haven't watched enough movies, Lo, but I've never seen that. And we're talking about a movie where people don't talk very much. Tom Hardy does the most talking. And how many movies does he not ever talk?
Unintelligible.
Yeah, and that would be my worst thing, but it's almost not a fair thing to criticize, is that there are bits of dialogue, especially toward the beginning, while I'm still getting used to the kind of movie I'm watching, and the dialects and stuff. Now, the dialects and the vernacular are spot on for this period. Not that I know the history of this period very well, but it sure felt period accurate. And there are a lot of places, though, where I just don't know what people are saying. I
There were many conversations but I think that the acting did a good job of shining through that, because there were scenes between what was his name, Bridger, the young man that was with Tom Hardy's character, Fitzgerald, throughout most of the movie, where I couldn't quite talk, but I got what was going on, and I think that it really sells to both of their acting ability for me to be able to be like, okay, I didn't quite understand any of that sentence, but Bridger is terrified right now, and he's just going to go along with this because he has no other choice.
I felt like as it went along, it was easier to pick up on what he was saying. Like I sort of adapted to it. I also feel like I had to adapt to the slow pacing, and I think that that's intentional, and it happened quickly enough. I had reservations because I didn't know how invested I would be or how smart the storytelling would be. And it totally worked. It's 2.5 hours. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't whittle this down more than they did, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't. Because like it really feels. It gave me a new respect for nature. And a new kind of terror for nature. I really liked that about it too. That like man feels so small and insignificant compared to the landscape. And this is a man versus nature movie. But impressively, it also gets the other two done too. It's man versus nature, but it's also man versus man. And it's also man versus himself. It's all there. This is. Just if you're curious, this is a movie primarily about mortality and the fragility of man versus some people's obsession with godhood, which we get on the other side with Tom Hardy's character, and you've got a guy who feels insignificant. What's that now?
That was the one time I laughed out loud in the theater when he was talking about the man who found God.
Yeah, that was hilarious. You got a guy who is, in a very small scale sense, kind of a master manipulator, or at least fancies himself that way, and is trying to, and kind of fancies himself as a god, and of course that doesn't exactly pan out. Anyway, I think it's really solid. I'm definitely feeling it. And I'm surprised I like it as much as I do, considering the fact that I don't want to watch it again.
And I'm somebody who loves kind of violent movies, but I like them more when they're stylized. I like your Matthew Vaughn movies. Those are some of my favorites because they're very stylized and they're very not realistic. But like specifically the final confrontation and the bear mauling scene, I was just like, I was like gasping and like. Just multiple times I was like, ugh, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing that was happening. It was so visceral and real.
Yeah, it's hard to get through, and it's supposed to be, and that's a hard thing. That's a tough thing to earn, and I think they totally do. Mm-hmm. I also appreciate how mature it is about the vengeance theme. Toward the end, I found myself certainly. I mean, I'm rooting for the guy all the way through, and certainly. There's a part of me that wants him to get the guy, but it's really mature, without giving anything away, about the revenge thing, where it's certainly not condoning that, and I've seen a lot of things where it doesn't exactly condone it, but it sort of does, and this is really sober about that whole thing. I was surprised by that too. I just think it's a really level-headed movie all the way around.
Well, it's not your Kill Bill sort of revenge movie, and it's not your Count of Monte Cristo sort of revenge movie, where you've got two very kind of almost opposite spectrums on revenge, and it was something else completely different. Because you're right, it was a lot more realistic than I think we really see, because revenge is something that I think as moviegoers and readers, like, you kind of love to be like, yeah, go beat the bad guy because he deserves justice type of thing.
And it's
definitely refreshing and different.
Yeah, and revenge is always such an extreme thing that it doesn't happen. It's just not a thing that happens to the degree it does in the movies in real life very much. So when you make me buy that, that's really cool. Anyway, overall, I think Lo and I are both recommending this for the sorts of people that would A, be able to stomach it, and B, would appreciate 2.5 hours of dragging yourself through the snow trying to survive.
It was like painful to watch in a good way, like not painful because I wasn't enjoying it, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like you're feeling every little creak of his bones as he's Arnie crawling through the snow, and man.
Yeah, did you ever think you'd see a guy get mauled by a bear for a full 10 minutes, Lo? Cause I didn't.
Well, I have seen the documentary Grizzly Man. I guess you don't get to see it in that.
Okay. That's going to be it for us today. Everybody, thanks as always for watching How We Felt About it. We sure appreciate it. And Lo and I will try to come back with you soon with another exciting new movie review. I don't know what it'll be yet. Around this time next month, we've got Deadpool, so obviously, definitely that'll happen.
Oh my gosh.
But like this soon already, Deadpool, geez, it's crazy. It's crazy talk, Lo. But we'll try to do we'll try to do one or two more for you this month too. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Lo.
Do